the lender consultation.
Yeah, this one's huge. All right, we talk about buyer consultation on the show all the time. It's equally as important on the lender side. Yeah. Okay. So the first thing I do is I schedule a Zoom or a call, whichever one they prefer. If they're a first-time home buyer, they might want to see my face. I mean, they're giving me a lot of personal information. They're giving me social security numbers, bank accounts, all these different things. So if they want a personal connection, whether it's a coffee shop or a Zoom, happy to do it. And I do it all the time. So and the first question I ask them is, how much do you know about this process? Sometimes people say, first-time home buyer, don't know anything. And sometimes people say, oh, I've done this 5 times in my life. I know exactly what's going on.
Right.
What they don't realize is we do this more than 5 times every day. Mm-hmm. So 5 times in your life is actually, not that many times. And there's a lot to this, and things change.
Oh, I will tell you, I have a really simple thing from the real estate side that I send, like a little infographic. And it just is like, hey, the 6 or 7 steps that you're buying a house, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? With a little bullet points underneath each one. It's just like a little infographic. And people are so grateful. They're like, oh, this is so helpful, just for them to see that roadmap laid out. So I think it's interesting because people think they know more than they do.
That's right. And like I said, things change. Like, right, the guidelines change, programs change, things change, and they need to understand, if anything else, how you work. So that's the first thing I do is I explain my process and I let them ask questions. And there's always questions. Always. I don't care if someone said, oh, I've done this so many times. I know exactly. You don't need to explain anything to me. I was like, all right, well, just let me tell you how I work then. And this is what I do. And then sure enough, there's always questions. Right.
And, even when you get into loan estimates and all that stuff, which we'll talk about in a minute, but like they're looking at a sheet just with a bunch of numbers on it. They don't know what that means.
Yeah.
And so it's great to touch base and then just refresh them on the process and walk them through. And it also makes everybody comfortable.
And you may know that, hey, I might not need to explain what, escrow means now, but because you've done it several times, but you still need to go through the process. The next question I ask is, have you ever had a bad experience?
Yeah.
And what I'm looking for here is for them to tell me all the ways their last lender screwed up. They're going to say, well, they never told me this and they never told me that.
I'll bet what it was is just communication. It's the most thing.
It's communication. Yeah. And it's like, they didn't explain to me this, and I bought points and I didn't want to. And and so now I'm like, all right, I'm taking mental notes or physical notes about, all right, do not do that to this person. Do not do that to this person. I'm making sure to knock all of those out of the park.
Yeah.
And not that I wouldn't try to anyway, but everybody has a different, thing that makes them tick, right? Everybody has a thing that like makes them angry or makes them happy. So I want to make sure that I do all the things that they expect of their lender extremely, extremely well.
Yeah, I bet there's just it's just about comfort level, right? In terms of, there are specific things. And like we just talked about before, like I don't really want to know all the details, but some people want to know every particular because it's like money is very personal. And that's what I say is like the realtors, we're doing kind of the fun part of it, quote unquote, because we're basically like, getting them the house and we're talking about where furniture is going to go and those things. It's like that. But that money part is so personal that people that really like, I don't know, it just hits like a certain vibration or something where people, they take it personally. It's way more important to them. They want to know where every dollar is coming. They want to make sure that they understand. And I think the number one thing is they don't want to be taken advantage of.
Yeah.
And it's a massive purchase. And so their risk factor is up, and they're just like trying to figure this out and looking for ways that they might be getting taken advantage of. And it's like, you've got to communicate with them frequently and calmly to get their comfort level up.
Yeah. And honestly, the more you have these conversations with them, whether on Zoom, these lender consultations, or if you explain things very well, or you make sure to do the small things right that they didn't have a great, experience with last time, it's going to make those conversations easier when they don't get approved. Because now you've built up rapport. They understand that you know what you're doing. You're going to be able to lay them down a little bit easier if they don't get approved for whatever reason. And it happens. Like people sometimes they're just not quite ready to buy. And it's something that's solvable, but not solvable right this minute.
Right.
And so just do the little things right to this point, and it'll make all of those conversations easier.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Next thing I do is review out-of-pocket costs, because most agents don't. And it's really both of our jobs. So it's not like I'm saying, pointing the blame. It's both of our jobs to review these things, but I make sure to review even the ones that are out of my scope. For instance, inspections. So like I say, hey, you're going to have an appraisal, and yes, it comes off of your closing costs at the end, but you got to pay for it up front. You're going to pay for an inspection. You're going to have earnest money that's due. All these things are part of the process before we get to the closing table. So often I hear, oh, my agent never told me that.
Yeah. And you have to start telling your clients, like, this is going to cost money before we get to the closing table. And this is why that consultation, again, is so important, because at the very beginning of this, you're going to surprise them. You'll be like, all right, now I need, $5,000 for earnest money. They don't even know how they're going to get that to you. They don't know. A lot of like people that are buying houses now don't even have checkbooks.
Yeah.
So, right. And so like,
what's
how do
a wire?
What's a wire? And then like, how do we get this through? So you explaining those things as a front end, it's like, I appreciate that you do that, but it's like, it's our job to do it too as the agent. So yeah, we'll get it from both sides.
The last thing I try to get on this consultation call is, what's your budget? Like in an ideal world, where does the mortgage payment fit? Like, is it $3,000 a month? Is it $4,000? Is it, are we not completely sure? But I'm letting them know, hey, you need to start thinking about that, because once we get to the stage where you're pre-approved, I'm going to give you a purchase price and a rough idea of what monthly payment would look like. And you need to know, does that fit into your monthly budget?
Yeah.
So we need to have that discussion, because there's no sense in me pre-approving you for $700,000 if you don't want to spend $1 over $3,000 a month. Now, we all know buyers don't end where they start, and often they're going to move their price point as we get towards the end. But it's a good idea to start thinking about your monthly budget and where you want to be, and we can map that to a purchase price as we get a little further.
Yeah, absolutely.